Parents thought their Snow White baby was common, but then they learned the shocking truth. Meet Sarah and John, a vibrant young couple living in a quaint American town who had eagerly anticipated the arrival of their first child. The joy of Lily's birth was tinged with a sense of wonder and a dash of bewilderment at her unique appearance. From the moment Lily was placed in her mother's arms, her striking white hair became the center of attention. The hospital room buzzes with the soft coos and curious whispers of visiting family and friends, each person pausing to marvel at Lily's hair. "Have you ever seen a baby with hair like that?" they'd ask, their faces a mix of surprise and delight. But for Sarah and John, the astonishment slowly turns into a seed of worry. Why was their daughter born with hair so pale? Welcome back to PlotTwister. Before we unravel today's mystery, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell so you're always in the loop. As the days in the hospital pass, the couple watches nurses and doctors come and go, each casting a long glance at Lily, some touching her hair lightly, whispering about how they've never seen anything like it. It's clear that Lily is not just another newborn at the hospital. Dr. Emily, a seasoned pediatrician, notices the concerned looks on Sarah and John's faces. She reassures them with a warm smile, suggesting that Lily's hair might just be an unusual case of newborn hair that could darken as she grows. Yet the suggestion does little to ease their minds. Sarah and John find themselves scrolling through endless medical articles late into the night, their screen glowing in the dim light of their room, searching for any clue that might explain their daughter's condition. The small town around them buzzes with tales and superstitions about babies born with hair like moonlight, adding layers of folklore to their concerns. Despite the magical stories, Sarah and John's need for solid answers grows. Dr. Emily, picking up on their increasing anxiety, recommends a genetic consultation to delve deeper into the possible reasons behind Lily's distinctive trait. As Sarah and John prepare to leave the hospital, they know their journey to understanding Lily's mysterious beauty is just happening. With each step, the puzzle of Lily's white hair weaves them deeper into a narrative they never expected to be part of. Back home, the whispers and tales that had begun in the hospital now echo through the close-knit community of Sarah and John's small town. Neighbors stop by, each visit bringing a mix of congratulations and quiet curiosity. They come bearing gifts and old wives' tales about children born with unique traits like Lily's hair, each story more fantastical than the last. While these stories are told with a sense of wonder, they only serve to heighten the couple's underlying fears. Sarah finds herself caught between enjoying the folklore and feeling a knot of anxiety about the unknown. During coffee mornings, other mothers share their own birth stories, yet none seem to mirror her own. This feeling of uniqueness, while celebrated by others, feels isolating to her. Meanwhile, John keeps his concerns to himself, focusing on facts rather than stories. He spends nights researching medical databases and forums, looking for any scientific explanation that might match their daughter's appearance. His search uncovers terms like albinism and piebaldism, but nothing seems to quite fit Lily's condition. Seeing the toll their uncertainty is taking on them, Dr. Emily schedules a genetic consultation. She explains that understanding genetic markers can sometimes reveal more about such rare traits. The day of the appointment, Sarah and John drive to the city, their car ride filled with silent tension and unspoken hopes. At the geneticist's office, a new round of observations begins. The geneticist, Dr. Harris, is a kind man with a gentle demeanor who carefully examines Lily, taking notes of her otherwise robust health and cheerful demeanor. He suggests a series of tests to explore the genetic landscape that could explain the whiteness of her hair. As Sarah holds Lily, watching blood samples being carefully labeled and sent off for analysis, her heart hangs heavy with both hope and fear. The couple returns home to wait for results. Days turns into weeks and the waiting seems endless. Each phone call that isn't from Dr. Harris tightens the coil of suspense. In the meantime, they focus on the daily joys of parenting. Lily's first smiles, her gentle grip on their fingers, her eyes lighting up at the sound of familiar voices. These precious moments are bittersweet, overshadowed by the hanging question of her health. As the story of Lily's unique feature spreads further, it draws mixed reactions from afar, turning Lily into a small-town celebrity of sorts. But for Sarah and John, the public's fascination is just another layer of pressure, as they quietly yearn for answers that seem just out of reach. The climax of Sarah and John's journey begins with the awaited call from Dr. Harris, informing them that the initial genetic tests are in. His voice is neutral, but Sarah can detect a note of caution, setting her nerves on edge. They arrive to meet the following day, and the couple spends a restless night, their minds racing with possible scenarios. At the medical center, Dr. Harris greets them with a somber smile and leads them into his office, where large windows let in streams of sunlight, casting a serene glow over the otherwise tense atmosphere. He explains that the initial tests have shown some unusual genetic markers, which are intriguing but not definitive enough to prove clear answers. He suggests a more comprehensive panel of tests to understand better the complexities of Lily's condition. Over the next few weeks, Sarah and John find themselves plunged deeper into the world of genetic research. They visit specialists, each with their theories and explanations, adding layers of complexity to Lily's case. The couple navigates a labyrinth of medical terms and potential diagnosis, each more perplexing than the last. As they wait for the next round of results, the community's support becomes a double-edged sword. People's curiosity grows, bringing more attention to Lily, but with it, an overwhelming sense of being watched and judged. Their private ordeal becomes a public spectacle, making each trip outside their home a challenge. The results day arrives, and with it a palpable tension that fills Dr. Harris's office. He opens the envelope slowly, his eyes scanning the documents before looking up with a cautious optimism. The results are promising in that they rule out many serious genetic disorders, which brings a temporary sigh of relief to Sarah and John. However, the underlying cause of Lily's white hair remains a mystery. With each test that rules out a condition, the emotional roller coaster climbs higher. Relief is quickly followed by frustration, and hope is tinged with fear. Dr. Harris remains a steady presence, suggesting they consult with a genetic specialist renowned for her expertise in rare genetic conditions, Dr. Anderson. As they prepare for their consultation with Dr. Anderson, Sarah and John try to balance their deep-seated fears with the joys of everyday life with Lily, whose giggles and playfulness light up even their darkest moments. Their journey towards understanding Lily's condition is far from over, but each step forward is a step closer to answers. They hold on to each other, finding strength in their unity as they face the unknown together. Sarah and John's journey continues as they meet Dr. Anderson, a specialist with a calming presence and a reassuring smile that seems to lighten the heavy burden of uncertainty they've been carrying. In her office, walls lined with books and papers, Dr. Anderson reviews Lily's extensive medical files and listens intently to the parents' recount of their ordeal. Dr. Anderson suggests further specialized tests, explaining that while they may not provide immediate answers, they could crucially narrow down the possibilities. Sarah and John's consent, weary but hopeful, and Lily undergoes another series of gentle, non-invasive scans and genetic screenings. As they wait for these new results, Sarah and John find solace in the normalcy of daily life. They spend their days focusing on Lily, who is growing more vibrant and engaging. Her laughter fills their home, a stark contrast to the tense silence of waiting rooms and the clinical sterility of medical offices. Weeks later, Dr. Anderson calls them with news. The tension in Sarah's body as she answers the phone is palpable, but Dr. Anderson's voice is calm and carries a note of optimism. The tests have ruled out numerous serious conditions, significantly reducing the list of potential causes. While this news doesn't provide the final answer, it alleviates many of their worst fears, allowing them to breathe a little easier. Dr. Anderson schedules a follow-up appointment to discuss the results in detail. In her office, she explains that Lily's condition might be a rare form of a genetic variation that affects pigmentation, but is not associated with any health issues. This partial revelation brings a mix of relief and frustration. Relief that Lily is healthy, but frustration at the lingering unknowns. To provide a more definitive answer, Dr. Anderson contacts a colleague who has dealt with similar cases. This expert, based in another state, reviews Lily's case and provides his insights, which Dr. Anderson relays to Sarah and John during another meeting. He has seen similar cases and believes Lily may have a rare but benign condition that causes the lack of pigmentation in her hair. With each condition ruled out, the emotional weight lifts slightly off the couple's shoulders. They begin to accept that while Lily's hair may be unusual, it is just a part of her unique charm. As they walk out of Dr. Anderson's office, there's a new spring in their step. Grateful for the good health of their daughter, and slowly coming to terms with the mystery that might just remain slightly unsolved but benign. Their journey has taught them about resilience, the power of medical science, and the strength found in community and family support. In the calm expanse of Dr. Anderson's office, Filled with the afternoon light, the final pieces of the puzzle begin to fall into place. Dr. Anderson, with a confident smile, hands Sarah and John a report. It confirms that Lily has poliosis, a rare condition characterized by a lack of pigmentation in patches of hair. She explains that poliosis is harmless, a simple genetic quirk without any implications on Lily's overall health or future. Sarah and John listen intently, relief washing over them as they finally receive the answer they have sought for so long. Dr. Anderson assures them that Lily can live a completely normal life. This condition won't hinder her. It merely adds to her unique beauty, a defining feature that makes her stand out. As they drive home, the world seems brighter, the burden of uncertainty lifted. They discuss how to share this news with their family and friends, planning a small gathering to celebrate not just the diagnosis but also the journey they've endured. The day of the celebration, their home is filled with laughter and warm conversations. Sarah and John share the story of their journey to discover Lily's condition, emphasizing the support they felt from everyone. The community, once buzzing with curiosity, now celebrates Lily's unique trait with genuine affection and joy. In a quiet moment, Sarah takes Lily into her arms and looks into her bright, curious eyes. She whispers words of love and acceptance, promising to always remind Lily of how special she is. John joins them, wrapping his arms around his family, his heart full of gratitude for the resilience and strength they've discovered together. As the party winds down, the family takes a group photo in their backyard. Lily, with her striking white hair gleaming in the sunlight, is at the center, surrounded by people who love and cherish her uniqueness. This image captures a moment of pure joy and acceptance, symbolizing the journey from uncertainty to understanding. What are your thoughts on the twist we uncovered today? Comment your ideas below. Make sure to like and subscribe for a daily dose of drama and mystery. See you later with another twist. I held my Christian white-haired baby close to my chest. Then the doctor saw her and he screamed, "Oh my God." Sydney lay in the hospital bed, exhausted but overflowing with joy. The soft glow of the room's overhead lights cast a warm hue over everything, making the moment feel almost unreal. She had waited 9 long months for this day, and now cradled in her arms was her tiny, perfect baby girl. Her heart swelled with love as she traced the delicate features of her newborn's face. The little one's eyes fluttered open, a deep shade of blue, innocent and unknowing. Sydney held her closer, breathing in the sweet scent of new life. Robert stood beside the bed, his hands trembling slightly as he reached out to touch his daughter for the first time. His fingers brushed over the baby's impossibly soft skin, and he let out a shaky breath. His smile was wide, but his eyes held something else, a flicker of surprise. His gaze lingered on the baby's head. Sydney noticed it too. Nestled against her chest, their daughter had a full head of thick, soft curls, brighter than any hair she had ever seen on a newborn. It wasn't blonde, it was silver. It was completely white. Sydney blinked, unsure if it was the lighting playing tricks on her. She brushed a few strands gently, half expecting the color to change under her touch, but it didn't. A soft gasp came from the nurse, standing at the bedside. The woman quickly covered her mouth, eyes darting between Sydney and Robert, before she forced a smile. She leaned in, wrapping the baby in a fresh blanket. Her movements were careful, almost too careful. Sydney's chest tightened. The nurse spoke, her voice light but slightly unsteady. "Such a beautiful baby. Do you have a name already?" Sydney hesitated. The name had been chosen long ago, whispered between them in late-night conversations filled with dreams of the future. She cleared her throat and forced herself to smile. "Lily," Robert repeated it softly, running a hand over the baby's head. The flicker of surprise was still there, hidden behind the love in his eyes. Welcome back to PlotTwister. Before we unravel today's mystery, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell so you're always in the loop. The nurse nodded, but Sydney caught the way she kept glancing at Lily's hair. Her fingers twitched at her side, as if resisting the urge to touch it again. Sydney swallowed, tightening her grip on her baby. Lily stirred in her arms, letting out a tiny yawn. She was peaceful, perfect, but something wasn't right. Sydney felt it deep in her bones. Sydney lay awake in the dimly lit hospital room, staring at the ceiling. The steady hum of machines filled the silence, but her mind refused to rest. Lily slept soundly in the bassinet beside her, wrapped snugly in a white blanket. The room should have felt peaceful. It didn't. Robert sat in the chair by the window, his arms crossed. He hadn't said much in the last hour, but Sydney caught him glancing at their daughter more than once. His expression was unreadable, but his fingers tapped against his arm, a nervous habit she had come to recognize over the years. She shifted, sitting up slightly. Her body ached from labor, but something deeper gnawed at her, something she couldn't quite name. She looked down at Lily, her tiny face relaxed in sleep, her white curls resting against her forehead like a halo. Sydney reached out, running her fingers through the strands again. They were soft, impossibly light. Too light. A quiet knock at the door made her jump. A nurse peeked in, her smile polite but hesitant. She stepped closer, her eyes flickering toward Lily before settling on Sydney. "Just a routine check," she murmured, though her hands moved with unusual care as she reached for the baby. Sydney watched as the nurse lifted Lily, checking her vitals, pressing a stethoscope to her tiny chest. It was a normal procedure, but something about the way she moved felt different. Too slow, too cautious. Then the nurse hesitated. Her fingers brushed over Lily's head, pausing just a second too long. Sydney's stomach tightened. She gripped the edge of the blanket, her knuckles white. "Is everything okay?" The nurse blinked, then forced a quick smile. "Oh yes, just unique hair. Very rare." Sydney's throat went dry. Rare. That word lingered in the air like a shadow. Robert straightened in his chair. His voice was calm, steady, but the question was sharp. "Have you seen this before?" The nurse hesitated just for a second. "Once," she admitted, before quickly adding, "but nothing to worry about." She set Lily back down, smoothing the blanket around her tiny form. Sydney watched her leave, but the uneasy feeling only grew. The door clicked shut, and the silence felt heavier than before. The air in the hospital room felt thick, heavy with an unspoken tension. Sydney couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. She kept her hands wrapped around Lily's tiny body, holding her close, as if she could somehow protect her from whatever unease had settled into the room. Robert hadn't stopped watching their daughter. His jaw was tight, his fingers tapped against his leg in an uneven rhythm. Sydney could tell he was trying to keep his emotions in check, but the worry in his eyes was undeniable. Then the door swung open. Dr. Collins entered, his expression calm but his steps brisk. He greeted them with a nod before moving straight to Lily's bassinet. Without a word, he reached down and gently lifted the baby into his arms, his fingers pressed lightly against her back, his eyes scanning her features with the careful precision of someone who had seen far too much in his career. Sydney's heart pounded in her chest. She swallowed hard, watching as he ran a hand over Lily's white curls. He paused, his brow furrowing slightly. His fingers brushed over her scalp again, this time slower. Then just for a moment he stiffened. The change was subtle, but Sydney caught it. A sharp inhale, a flicker of something in his expression, something close to shock. Then suddenly he pulled back. His hands trembled slightly as he set Lily down, and when he turned to face them, his face had gone pale. "Oh my God." The words came out barely above a whisper, but they hit Sydney like a punch to the gut. Robert shot to his feet. What is it?" Dr. Collins didn't answer right away. He pressed his fingers to his lips, staring at Lily as if trying to piece something together. Then without another word, he spun toward the door and called for a nurse. His voice was sharp, urgent. "Bring me the portable scanner now." Sydney's breath caught in her throat. Robert reached for her hand, gripping it tight. Neither of them spoke, but their thoughts were the same. Something was very, very wrong. Sydney's fingers tightened around the edge of the hospital blanket as the nurse rushed back into the room, carrying a small, sleek medical scanner. Dr. Collins barely acknowledged her before taking the device, his hands moving quickly, almost impatiently. The tension in the room thickened as he turned the scanner on and hovered it above Lily's small frame. A faint hum filled the silence. Sydney held her breath. Robert stood motionless beside her, his hands balled into fists at his sides. Neither of them spoke. Neither of them dared to. Dr. Collins' eyes remained fixed on the screen. His face was unreadable, but Sydney could see the way his throat moved as he swallowed hard. Then without a word, he lowered the scanner and exhaled sharply. He turned to the nurse. His voice was low, Urgent. Get me the full file from the archives. Cross-check everything. The nurse hesitated, her lips parting as if she wanted to ask a question, but something in the doctor's face made her nod instead. She disappeared down the hall. Sydney felt her pulse hammering in her ears. Robert finally spoke, his voice tight. "What are you looking for?" Dr. Collins didn't answer immediately. He set the scanner down on the tray beside him, rubbing his temples. When he finally looked at them, his expression was careful, as if measuring his words. "I just need to confirm something." That wasn't enough. Sydney's patience snapped. "Confirm what? What aren't you telling us?" Before the doctor could respond, the door creaked open again. An old nurse entered, her hair pinned back neatly, her movements slow but deliberate. She wasn't carrying a file. Instead, she stood there, watching Lily. Sydney recognized her. Margaret, one of the senior nurses. She had been there when they first arrived, checking on Sydney during labor. Margaret stepped closer, her gaze locked on Lily's white curls. A strange, knowing look crossed her face. Then quietly, she said, "I've seen this before." Sydney's breath caught in her throat. Robert turned to her sharply. Dr. Collins shot the older woman a glance. His mouth set in a firm line. Margaret held up a hand. "Not here." The air in the room felt colder. Sydney pulled Lily closer. Nothing about this felt normal anymore. Sydney's heart pounded as Margaret stepped closer, her eyes fixed on Lily. The older nurse's voice was quiet but firm. "A long time ago I met a baby just like this. White hair, eyes that seemed older than they should be." Dr. Collins shot her a look but didn't stop her from speaking. Robert's grip tightened around Sydney's shoulder, his body tense. Sydney looked down at her daughter, at the soft white curls resting against her forehead. She had never felt so fiercely protective in her life. Margaret exhaled, choosing her words carefully. "It's rare, so rare that most doctors won't see it in their lifetime." Dr. Collins ran a hand through his hair. He turned to Sydney and Robert, his voice calmer now, more certain. "Lily has a rare genetic condition. Not harmful, not a disease. It's called pebaldism. It affects pigmentation, making her hair appear completely white from birth." Sydney blinked. "Just a pigmentation condition? That was it?" Dr. Collins hesitated. "There's more." Sydney held her breath. "Every recorded case of this, especially in newborns with full white hair, comes with something unusual. These children, they have an extraordinary ability, high levels of empathy, an almost unnatural sense of understanding emotions, even as babies." Margaret nodded. "The child I met years ago, she could calm people just by being near them. Nurses, parents, even other babies. There was something about her. Something we never could explain." Sydney stared at Lily, watching as her tiny fingers curled and uncurled in sleep. She looked peaceful, unaware of the weight of the moment around her. Robert let out a slow breath, rubbing a hand over his face. "So is she okay?" Sydney asked. Dr. Collins smiled for the first time that night. "She's more than okay. She's special." Sydney felt the tears before she realized she was crying. She held Lily close, pressing her lips against her daughter's soft skin. Relief flooded her, followed by something deeper. Love, wonder. Lily stirred, her tiny eyes fluttering open. The room fell into silence. For a moment the air itself felt lighter, warmer. Margaret smiled softly. "You'll see it, as she grows." Sydney already knew she would. What are your thoughts on the twist we uncovered today? Comment your ideas below. Make sure to like and subscribe for a daily dose of drama and mystery. See you later with another twist. Her baby was born with the same hair streak. She's in shock when she finds out why. Emily had always considered herself a pretty average person. At 28, she was living a quiet life in the same Pennsylvania town with her husband, Mark. They were the kind of couple that seemed destined to start a family. A pair who spent their weekends painting the nursery and excitedly discussing baby names. As the due date approached, Emily could barely contain her excitement, even as the inevitable nerves set in. But there was something else about Emily that had always set her apart. A detail so small, yet so striking, that it was impossible to ignore. A single streak of pure white hair that ran through her otherwise dark brown hair. She'd had it since birth, and over the years it had become her signature feature, a little mystery she carried with her. Welcome back to Plot Twister. Before we unravel today's mystery, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell so you're always in the loop. The day finally came when Emily went into labor. The hospital room buzzed with anticipation, the usual mix of nerves and joy as Mark held her hand, reassuring her with every contraction. Hours passed in a blur of pain and determination until finally, the cries of a newborn filled the room. A baby girl, perfect in every way. Emily's heart swelled with love as the nurse carefully placed the tiny bundle in her arms. But as she gazed down at her daughter for the first time, something caught her eye that made her breath hitch. A small, unmistakable streak of white hair, identical to her own. Emily's heart skipped a beat. She blinked, thinking perhaps it was a trick of the light. But there it was, clear as day. Mark noticed it too and laughed, saying their daughter had inherited her unique little trait. He saw it as a cute coincidence, a funny story to tell their friends and family. But Emily couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to it. She smiled at Mark, hiding the unease that was beginning to creep into her thoughts. Later, as the baby slept soundly in her hospital bassinet, Emily found herself staring at the streak of white hair. Her mind raced with questions she couldn't yet answer. The connection felt too strong to ignore, too significant to dismiss as mere genetics. As she lay in the hospital bed, exhaustion pulled her towards sleep. A small voice inside her whispered that this was just the beginning. Weeks passed and Emily's life settled into the rhythm of caring for a newborn. But the unease that had started in the hospital lingered, growing stronger with each passing day. Every time she looked at her daughter's hair, that white streak seemed to catch the light in a way that demanded her attention. It was as if it was asking her to notice, to question, and so the questions began to circle in her mind, refusing to be ignored. At night, when the house was quiet and still, Emily started having strange dreams. They were always the same. Her mother, who had passed away years ago, standing in a foggy, distinct place. Her mother's lips would move as if she was speaking, but Emily could never hear the words. Each morning, she woke up feeling more unsettled, the dreams lingering at the edge of her consciousness like a half-remembered conversation. One weekend, Emily's family came to visit, eager to meet the newest member of the family. As they gathered around the baby, admiring her tiny hands and feet, the streak of white hair inevitably became the topic of conversation. When her grandmother saw it, she went pale, her expression shifting from joy to something more serious. She quietly remarked that Emily's mother had been born with the same streak, just like Emily and now her daughter. The room grew quiet as her grandmother shared this, her voice carrying a weight that made Emily's stomach tighten. After the visit, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story. She found herself thinking back to her childhood, to the stories her mother used to tell, stories that Emily had once dismissed as fanciful tales. But now those stories took on a new significance. That night, as Emily lay in bed beside Mark, she couldn't stop thinking about the conversation with her grandmother. The idea that this streak might mean something more, that it wasn't just a genetic quirk gnawing at her. Mark noticed her growing obsession and tried to reassure her, telling her that it was just a coincidence. But Emily couldn't let it go. The dreams, her grandmother's reaction, the way the streak seemed to almost shimmer in the light, it all felt connected. She started researching her family history, searching for anything that might explain the streak, but found little more than names and dates. As the nights wore on, the feeling that something was hidden just beneath the surface became impossible to ignore. Emily's curiosity turned into determination. She couldn't shake the feeling that the streak in her mother's hair was more than just a quirk. The questions that haunted her dreams began to invade her waking thoughts, pushing her to dig deeper into her family's past. She started by visiting the town's historical society, hoping to find some clue in the dusty old records that might shed light on the mystery. She spent hours combing through birth certificates, marriage licenses, and faded photographs of women in her family. There were several with the same streak of white hair, but no explanations, no stories to explain why it appeared. The more she searched, the more frustrated she became. It was as if the answers were just out of reach, hidden behind layers of forgotten history. One evening, while sorting through her late mother's belongings, Emily stumbled upon something she had never seen before. An old, sealed letter addressed to her. Her hands trembled as she opened it. The letter was dated the day before her mother passed away. The handwriting was shaky, but the words were clear. The streak is more than a physical trait. It's a connection, a legacy. You'll understand when the time is right. Emily's heart raced as she read the cryptic message. Her mother had known something she hadn't had time or perhaps the courage to fully explain. The letter only deepened the mystery, making Emily more determined to uncover the truth. A few days later, while sorting through boxes in the attic, Emily discovered an old journal that had belonged to her great-grandmother, a woman she barely remembered from childhood stories. The journal was filled with entries about visions, dreams, and a mysterious gift that seemed tied to the streak of white hair. Each entry was more unsettling than the last, speaking of a connection to something beyond the physical world, something passed down through the generations. As she read through the journal, Emily felt a growing sense of both fear and responsibility. This was no ordinary family trait. It was something much deeper, something that had shaped the lives of the women who came before her. She realized that whatever this gift was, it was now part of her daughter's life too. The weight of what she was uncovering began to press down on her. Emily couldn't help but feel protective of her daughter, worried about what this legacy might mean for her future. But the more she learned, the more she understood that she couldn't walk away now. She had to know the truth, no matter how settling it might be. Determined to uncover the truth, Emily decided to visit the old family home where her mother had grown up. The house had been empty for years, left untouched since her grandmother moved into a smaller place. It stood at the edge of town, surrounded by overgrown trees and wildflowers, a place that seemed frozen in time. As she walked up the creaking steps, a sense of anticipation washed over her, as if the house itself held the answers she sought. Inside, the air was thick with dust and memories. Emily wandered through the rooms, each one a relic of a lifelong past. She ran her fingers over the old furniture, imagining her mother and grandmother living their lives here, unaware of the secrets they would pass down. In the living room, she found an old photo album tucked away in a drawer. As she flipped through the pages, she saw images of women from different generations, all with the same streaks of white hair. They were smiling, living their lives, but now, knowing what she did, the smile seemed tinged with a quiet knowledge of something deeper. In the attic, she discovered a small wooden box hidden beneath a pile of blankets. Inside, there were letters, faded and fragile with age. One of them, written by her great-grandmother, spoke of a gift tied to the streak of white hair, something passed down from mother to daughter. The letter hinted at a connection to the spiritual world, a responsibility that came with the streak. The words were both fascinating and frightening. Emily felt a chill as she realized this wasn't just a family quirk. It was something much more profound. As she continued exploring the house, an elderly neighbor knocked on the door. The woman introduced herself as Miss Green, a longtime friend of Emily's great-grandmother. When she saw Emily, she smiled softly as if recognizing the familiar streak of white hair. Mrs. Green spoke quietly, sharing stories of how Emily's great-grandmother had used her gift to help others in the town, particularly during difficult times. She hinted that the woman in Emily's family had always been special, with a unique ability to sense things others couldn't. Emily listened intently, her mind racing as the pieces began to fall into place. The streak wasn't just a physical trait, it was a mark of something much deeper, something spiritual. Mrs. Green's words confirmed that Emily had suspected the streak was a sign of a connection, a gift passed down through generations. It was something that couldn't be ignored or denied. The more she learned, the more Emily felt a mix of fear and awe. She was no longer just a mother protecting her child, she was the next in line to carry this legacy. The realization left her feeling both empowered and anxious. This wasn't just her story, it was her daughter's too, and Emily knew she had to embrace it, even if she didn't fully understand it yet. That night, Emily had another dream. This time it was different. The fog that had always surrounded her mother in these dreams was gone. Instead, her mother stood before her clearly, her expression calm and loving. Emily felt a sense of peace wash over her as she looked into her mother's eyes, no longer filled with the confusion that had haunted her in previous dreams. Her mother finally spoke, her voice clear and gentle, telling Emily that the streak of white hair was not something to fear. It was a blessing, a way to keep their family connected across generations, a bond that transcended the physical world. She explained that the gift was about love and protection, a way to guide those who came after. Emily's heart swelled with the understanding as her mother's words wrapped around her like a warm embrace. When Emily woke up, she felt a sense of clarity she hadn't experienced before. The unease and fear that had weighed on her for weeks seemed to lift, replaced by a deep understanding of her family's legacy. The streak wasn't just a mark of something strange or otherworldly. It was a symbol of the strength and love that had been passed down through generations of women in the family. Emily realized that her mother had been guiding her all along, leading her to this moment of acceptance and peace. The next morning, Emily shared everything with Mark. He spoke of the dreams, the journal, the old letters, and what Miss Green had told her. As she talked, Mark listened carefully, his expression serious but supportive. When she finished, he took her hand and reassured her that whatever the future held, they would face it together. He suggested that instead of fearing the streak, they should see it as a unique part of the family's identity, something to cherish and embrace. With Mark's support, Emily felt more confident than ever. She knew that this gift, this legacy, was something to be proud of. She decided that she would learn everything she could about it, preparing herself for the day when her daughter might ask about the streak in her own hair. Emily wanted to make sure her daughter grew up understanding that the streak wasn't a burden, but a blessing. A connection to the strong woman who had come before her. What are your thoughts on the twist we uncovered today? Comment your idea below. Make sure to like and subscribe for a daily dose of drama and mystery. See you later with another twist. Woman finds this abandoned baby in winter. She's shocked when she sees what lies beneath him. A peaceful winter day unfolded in a small town blanketed in snow. Emily, an ordinary woman with a kind heart, decided to take a morning stroll through the local park. The park, usually bustling with activity, was now serene and quiet, the snow muffling the sounds of the world. Emily loved this time of the year. The crisp air and the pristine beauty of the snow always brought her a sense of calm. As she walked along the familiar paths, she noticed something unusual on a bench not far from the playground. There, amidst the white expanse, was a small, motionless bundle. Emily's heart skipped a beat. At first, she thought it might be a forgotten piece of clothing or a bag. But as she got closer, she realized it was much more than that. Her breath caught in her throat as she saw a tiny face peeking out from the blankets. It was a baby, left all alone in the freezing cold. Emily's mind raced. Who could have left a baby here? Why? She looked around, but the park was empty. Panic and a sense of urgency washed over her. She knew she had to act fast to save this child from the biting cold. Welcome back to PlotTwister. Before we unravel today's mystery, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell so you're always in the loop. Emily carefully lifted the baby, wrapping her own scarf around him for extra warmth. She could feel the chill through the layers of blankets, and the baby's tiny boots shivered. Without wasting another moment, she reached for her phone and dialed 911, her hands trembling from both the cold and the shock. The operator's voice was calm and guided her through the situation, assuring her that help was on the way. Emily held the baby close, whispering soothing words to him as she waited. She couldn't shake the fear and sadness that someone had abandoned this helpless child. What kind of desperate situation must the mother have been in to do such a thing? Minutes felt like hours, but soon the sound of sirens broke the stillness of the park. Paramedics arrived, their faces a mix of professionalism and concern. They quickly assessed the baby's condition, wrapping him in warmer blankets and preparing to transport him to the hospital. Emily felt a mix of relief and lingering worry. She had done her part, but the baby's fate was still uncertain. As the ambulance drove away, Emily found herself standing alone in the snowy park. Her thoughts a whirlwind of questions and emotions. She had stumbled upon a mystery that day, one that would change her life in ways she couldn't yet comprehend. Little did she know that this was just the beginning of an incredible journey. Emily's day began like any other winter morning. She brewed her favorite coffee, savoring its warmth as she gazed out the window. The snow had fallen heavily overnight, transforming the town into a picturesque winter wonderland. Bundling up in her thick coat, hat, and gloves, Emily decided to take a walk to enjoy the fresh snow and clear her mind. The park was one of Emily's favorite spots. Today it was particularly serene, with the trees heavy with snow and the usual hustle and bustle replaced by a tranquil silence. As she wandered along the paths, her breath visible in the cold air, she felt a sense of peace wash over her. The crunch of snow under her boots was the only sound, creating a rhythmic, calming backdrop of her thoughts. As she rounded a corner near the playground, something out of place caught her eye. A small, unmoving bundle of a bench stood out against the stark white landscape. Her first thought was that someone had left behind a piece of clothing, but as she got closer, a wave of dread swept over her. It wasn't just a pile of clothes. It was a baby, swaddled in blankets, left alone in the frigid air. Her heart pounded in her chest as she approached the bench, her mind racing with questions and fears. She looked around desperately, hoping to see someone nearby. But the park was deserted. Kneeling beside the bench, she gently touched the baby's cheek. It was cold, too cold. Emily's maternal instincts kicked in. She quickly picked up the baby, cradling him close to share her body heat. With shaking hands, she grabbed her phone and called 911. Her voice trembling as she explained the situation. The operator assured her that help was on the way. Emily tried to calm the baby, who was now whimpering weakly. She held him tightly, whispering soft words of comfort, all the while feeling a deep sense of urgency. The minutes dragged on, each one feeling like an eternity. Finally, the sound of sirens broke through the silence. Paramedics rushed over, their faces a mixture of professionalism and concern. They carefully took the baby from Emily, wrapping him in warmer blankets and checking his vital signs. The baby was quickly placed in the ambulance and the doors closed. Emily stood there shivering more from the shock than the cold. She had done what she could, but the image of the abandoned baby and the questions surrounding his abandonment lingered in her mind. This extraordinary event had turned her ordinary day into a profound and life-changing experience. The paramedics wasted no time getting the baby to the hospital. Emily followed closely behind in her car, her thoughts racing with concern for her child's well-being. When she arrived at the hospital, she rushed into the emergency room, desperate for any news. The sterile, bustling environment seemed a world away from the serene park where she had found the baby. Emily approached the front desk, her voice shaking as she asked about the baby. The nurse directed her to a waiting area, assuring her that the doctors were doing everything they could. Emily sat down, her mind replaying the morning's events. She couldn't shake the image of the baby alone in the snow. Who would leave a child like that, and why? As she waited, a police officer approached her. Introducing himself as Officer Reynolds, he asked Emily to recount what had happened. She told him everything from her morning walk to finding the baby and calling 911. He took notes, his expression serious and thoughtful. When she finished, he thanked her and assured her they would do their best to find out what has happened. Not long after, a doctor emerged from the examination room. He approached Emily with a reassuring smile, informing her that the baby was stable and would be fine. The relief that washed over Emily was overwhelming. The doctor explained that the baby was suffering from mild hypothermia, but would recover fully with proper care. Just as Emily began to relax, Officer Reynolds returned with a small, crumpled note that had been found tucked inside the baby's blankets. The note was short and cryptic, hinting at a desperate situation, but providing no clear answers. It read, "Please take care of him. I had no other choice." Emily's heart ached as she read the words. The note raised more questions than it answered. Who was the mother? Why had she felt compelled to abandon her baby in such a dangerous way? Emily felt a strong need to find out the truth, not just for the baby's sake, but for the mother's as well. As the day turned into evening, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The police began their investigation, but Emily knew she couldn't just walk away. The connection she felt to the baby was too strong. She had to help uncover the story behind this mysterious abandonment. The hospital staff arranged for the baby to be taken into temporary care, and Emily left the hospital with a heavy heart. Driving home, she couldn't stop thinking about the note and the baby's fragile state. The mystery deepened, and Emily found herself drawn into a web of questions that demanded answers. This unexpected turn of events had set her on a path she never anticipated. But she knew she couldn't turn back now. The rescue had only been the first step in a much larger journey. Emily couldn't shake the feeling that she needed to do more. The baby, now safe in the care of social services, still occupied her thoughts. Determined to uncover the baby's past, she began visiting local shelters and community centers, hoping someone might recognize the baby or have information about the mother. At first, her efforts seemed in vain. Each visit led to dead ends and unanswered questions. Emily's frustration grew, but so did her resolve. She was determined to find answers not just for the baby, but also for the mother who had left him behind. One afternoon, Emily decided to reach out to an old friend who worked in social services. Jessica had always been resourceful and well-connected. Over coffee, Emily explained the situation, showing her the note and describing the baby's condition when she found him. Jessica listened intently, promising to look into any recent cases that might be related. A few days later, Jessica called a lead. She had found a case of a young woman named Maria who had recently been reported missing. Maria had a troubled past and had been staying in a shelter nearby. The pieces started to fit together. Could Maria be the mother of the baby Emily had found? Emily and Jessica decided to visit the shelter where Maria had been last seen. The shelter staff remembered Maria well. They described her as a quiet, kind woman who had been struggling but was determined to turn her life around. Maria had left the shelter abruptly and no one had heard from her since. Piecing together Maria's story, Emily left a pang of empathy. She could only imagine the desperation and fear that must have driven Maria to such an extreme act. The shelter staff provided a few more clues, items Maria had left behind, including a journal with entries that hinted at her struggles and hopes for her children's future. Emily felt a deeper connection to Maria now. She read through the journal, her heart breaking with each entry. It was clear that Maria loved her child deeply, but had felt trapped and without options. Emily knew she had to find Maria, not just for the baby's sake, but to help a mother who had lost her way. The more she uncovered, the more Emily realized this was not just about solving a mystery. It was about understanding the human stories behind the events and finding a way to bring some peace and resolution to everyone involved. Emily's journey was far from over, but she was more determined than ever to see it through. The community began to rally around Emily's efforts. Neighbors and friends offered help, spreading the word and keeping an eye out for Maria. The sense of unity and purpose was palpable. Emily felt hopeful, knowing that with every step she was closer to uncovering the truth and possibly reuniting a family. Just when Emily thought she had hit another dead end, an unexpected call changed everything. A woman named Sarah contacted her, claiming to have information about Maria. Sarah sounded cautious but sincere, and Emily arranged to meet her at a local cafe. Sarah explained that she had met Maria a few months ago in a support group for single mothers. Maria had shared bits of her story, and Sarah had grown concerned when Maria stopped attending all the meetings. She had tried to reach out but had no luck. Then she heard about the abandoned baby on the news and felt a gut-wrenching connection. Over steaming cups of coffee, Sarah revealed that Maria had confided in her about a difficult past. She had been in an abusive relationship and had fled to protect her unborn child. With no family to turn to and fearing for her safety, Maria had ended up at the shelter. Sarah remembered Maria mentioning a distant relative who might help, but she hadn't shared many details. Emily felt a surge of hope. This was the breakthrough she needed. She asked Sarah for any additional clues or details Maria might have mentioned. Sarah thought hard, recalling a conversation where Maria had spoken about a small town where she once felt safe, a place she had always dreamed of returning to. With this new lead, Emily and Officer Reynolds focused their search on the town Maria had mentioned. They scoured records, spoke to locals, and checked shelters in the area. Their efforts finally paid off when they found someone who recognized Maria from a photograph. An older woman named Mrs. Thompson remembered Maria staying in her boarding house briefly before disappearing again. Mrs. Thompson described Maria as a sweet but troubled young woman. She recalled Maria mentioning a friend who lived nearby, someone she trusted. This friend, Mrs. Thompson said, was named Rachel and had a small farm on the outskirts of town. Emily and Officer Reynolds drove out to the farm, their anticipation mounting with each mile. When they arrived, Rachel was wary but invited them in after they explained their purpose. She confirmed that Maria was indeed staying with her, but had left suddenly, leaving behind only a few belongings and a note asking Rachel to care for her baby if anything happened to her. Rachel handed over the note, which was heartbreakingly simple. "If I don't come back, please keep him safe. His name is David." Emily's heart ached as she read the words. Maria had been so close, yet still out of reach. But now, with Rachel's help, they had another piece of the puzzle. As they pieced together Maria's movements, the story became clearer. Emily felt both sorrow and determination. They were closing in on Maria's whereabouts, but the mystery of why she had felt so desperate remained. Each step brought them closer to the truth, revealing the depth of Maria's love and the lengths she had gone to protect her child. Emily knew they were on the brink of discovering the full story, and she was ready to see it through to the end. As Emily and Officer Reynolds delved deeper into Maria's life, they found a final clue hidden in the note Rachel had given them. The note mentioned an old family heirloom that Maria had taken with her for safekeeping, something that was deeply important to her. Emily remembered the baby's blankets and wondered if there was more to them than meets the eye. With newfound determination, Emily returned to the hospital, seeking permission to examine the items found with the baby most closest. The hospital staff, understanding the importance of the request, allowed her access. As Emily carefully unfolded the blankets, she noticed a hidden pocket sewn into the fabric. Inside, she found a small, intricately designed locket. Opening the locket, Emily discovered a tiny photograph of Maria with an older couple. On the back, an address was etched. It was a location not far from where Emily lived. This was the final piece of the puzzle. She immediately contacted Officer Reynolds, and together they drove to the address. The house, a modest but well-kept home, belonged to Maria's grandparents. They had no idea about Maria's recent struggles, but had always hoped she would reach out to them. They were overjoyed to learn about their great-grandson David and devastated to hear about Maria's hardships. The grandparents explained that Maria had a complicated past but had always been determined to protect her child. They showed Emily and Officer Reynolds old family photos and letters, painting a picture of a young woman who had faced many challenges but had an unwavering love for her son. Meanwhile, a breakthrough occurred. The police found Maria in a nearby town, safe but in a fragile state. She had been hiding, afraid and unsure where to turn. When she learned that her baby was safe and with her family, she broke down in tears of relief. The reunion at the grandparents' house was emotional and heartwarming. Maria, weak but filled with gratitude, hugged her son tightly. Emily watched, tears in her eyes, as the family came together, promising to support each other and give David the loving home he deserved. With the mystery resolved, Emily left a profound sense of fulfillment. She had played a crucial role in reuniting a family and ensuring the baby's safety. The town too rallied around Maria and David, offering support and resources to help them start anew. Emily returned to her normal life, but she was forever changed by the experience. She realized the incredible impact one person could have by simply caring and taking action. As she walked through the now familiar park, she felt a deep connection to the community and a renewed sense of purpose. The story of Maria and her baby became a beacon of hope and resilience, reminding everyone that even in the darkest of times, there's always a path to a brighter future. Emily knew she would always carry the story with her, a testament to the power of compassion and the strength of the human spirit. What are your thoughts on the twist we uncovered today? Comment your ideas below. Make sure to like and subscribe for a daily dose of drama and mystery. See you later with another twist.
Dog won't let anyone near baby. Parents scream when they discover why. Amanda sat on the couch, the soft weight of her newborn resting against her chest. The house was quiet except for the steady hum of the baby monitor and the occasional creak of floorboards. Buddy, their golden retriever, lay curled up by the fireplace, his head on his paws, eyes closed, but ears alert. For 2 days, everything felt peaceful, new, but peaceful. It wasn't until the 3rd day that Amanda noticed something strange. Buddy stopped resting. He paced outside the nursery door, tail stiff, ears perked. At first, Amanda thought he needed to go out, but when she opened the back door, he didn't budge. His eyes stayed fixed on Mia's room, body tense. That night, when Amanda walked into the nursery to change Mia, Buddy followed close behind. When she leaned over the crib, his growl stopped her cold. It was low and quick, barely audible, but enough to freeze her hands mid-air. She turned, surprised. Buddy stood there, unmoving, blocking the doorway. Amanda laughed nervously and told him to go lie down. He didn't move. He just stared. His tail didn't wag. His eyes didn't blink. Something about it made her uneasy. Buddy wasn't an aggressive dog. He'd been her companion for 8 years. Gentle, obedient, almost overly friendly. But this wasn't him. The next morning, Eric walked into the nursery to pick Mia up for her feeding. Buddy growled again, louder this time. Then he barked, sharp and sudden. Eric jumped back, startled. The baby began to cry. Amanda rushed in, but Buddy stood between them and the crib, his body rigid, teeth slightly bared. Eric reached for his collar, but Buddy snapped, not biting, but warning. Amanda pulled him back, heart pounding. Her hands shook as she carried Mia out of the room. She tried to calm herself. Maybe Buddy was just adjusting. Maybe it was hormones, confusion, jealousy. Later that day, Amanda tried to sit in the rocking chair with Mia. Buddy sat inches away, staring, panting, pacing back and forth like he couldn't relax. When she adjusted Mia's blanket, he whined. When she stood up, he barked again, short, sharp, protective. It wasn't like before, when he'd simply lay by her feet or lick her toes gently. This was different, tense, strange. Amanda felt her chest tighten. Every time she looked at Buddy now, she didn't see her sweet dog. She saw something she didn't understand. And for the first time since Mia had come home, Amanda felt afraid. Not of the dog, but of whatever it was he seemed to know before they did. Amanda woke up to the sound of scratching. At first, she thought it was coming from outside, maybe a branch or the wind. But when she opened the nursery door, Buddy was there, paws scraping the floor, nose pressed to the bottom corner of the doorframe. He turned quickly when he saw her, tail still, body low. She stepped over him gently, whispering that everything was okay. But when she leaned over Mia's crib, Buddy growled again. Not loud, but clear. Amanda froze. Her fingers hovered above the baby's blanket, unsure if she should keep reaching. The growl stopped her in place. Later that day, Buddy refused his food. He sat near Mia's crib for hours, panting softly, ears twitching at every sound. Amanda tried coaxing him with treats, but he wouldn't budge. She stood in the hallway watching him, unease settling deeper in her chest. Nothing about his behavior felt normal anymore. Eric noticed it too. That night, while they sat in the living room, Buddy barked from upstairs. Not playful, not territorial, just constant, sharp bursts. Eric looked at Amanda and said something had to change. Maybe it was jealousy. Maybe the dog just couldn't handle the baby. Amanda didn't answer. They started closing Buddy out of the nursery, but it didn't help. He would scratch at the door, whine, throw himself against the frame. His nose became raw from rubbing. When Amanda opened the door to check, he would bolt past her and stand guard at the crib, tense and alert. Amanda searched online. Articles about aggressive dogs after childbirth, stories of rehoming. One forum post described a similar situation and ended with a line that made Amanda's stomach drop. Some dogs just can't be trusted around newborns. She closed the laptop. The next day, while Eric was changing Mia, Buddy tried to push through the door. Amanda blocked him with her leg, but he growled and nipped the air. Eric turned, startled, as Amanda pulled Buddy back by the collar. The look in his eyes wasn't rage, it was panic. They locked him in the laundry room. He howled, scratched. His claws banged against the metal dryer. Amanda sat on the couch holding Mia, feeling her daughter's tiny heartbeat against her chest. It was fast. Too fast. She brushed it off as her own nerves. But something felt off. Mia wasn't eating as much. She felt hotter than usual. Her cheeks were pale. Amanda couldn't tell if she was being paranoid or if something was really wrong. And behind the door, Buddy kept barking, as if he knew the answer before anyone else. Amanda stood over the kitchen sink, staring at the bottle warmer like it might tell her what to do. Mia hadn't eaten more than a few ounces all morning. She was sleeping too long, her cries weak and distant when they came at all. Amanda pressed the back of her hand to Mia's forehead. Warm. Warmer than yesterday. Buddy barked again from the laundry room, the sound sharp and constant. Eric was pacing the living room, phone in hand. He muttered something about rehoming or sedation. Amanda didn't respond. Her heart felt like it was floating, unanchored, weightless in the worst way. That evening, Eric reached for Mia while Amanda tried to change her onesie. She barely moved. Her skin had turned a strange shade of grayish pink, and her body felt limp. Amanda's breath caught. She looked at Eric, eyes wide. He asked if they should call the pediatrician again. She just nodded. Buddy slammed into the laundry room door so hard it shook the frame. Amanda flinched. Eric shouted at the dog, but it only made Buddy more frantic. The barking didn't stop. It got louder, more desperate. The kind of barking that didn't sound angry anymore. It sounded terrified. Amanda picked up Mia and felt how warm she had become. Too warm. Her head lolled slightly on Amanda's arm. Panic bloomed in her chest. She called Mia's name, once, twice. The baby didn't stir. That's when Amanda screamed for Eric to call 911. Buddy was still howling, throwing his body against the door with so much force that Amanda thought he might actually break through. She ran to the door and pulled it open. Buddy shot out, bypassed Amanda entirely, and charged into the nursery. Then he ran straight back to her, barking, then back to the crib. Eric was already on the phone, pacing, repeating their address. Amanda clutched Mia in her arms, whispering her name, begging her to wake up. Her skin was burning. Her eyes barely opened. Amanda pressed her lips to her daughter's forehead. The heat scared her more than anything else ever had. The ambulance arrived in under 6 minutes. It felt like 60. The paramedics took Mia from Amanda's arms. One of them asked how long she'd been like this. Amanda didn't know. She just said she hadn't been sure until now. Buddy followed them all the way to the front door. He stood on the porch as the ambulance pulled away, his ears pinned back, chest rising fast. Amanda turned and saw him staring down the road. Not barking anymore, just waiting. The hospital lights were too bright. Amanda sat in a stiff chair, hands clenched in her lap, heart racing in rhythms that didn't match the clock on the wall. Eric stood beside her, but neither of them spoke. A nurse passed by with a clipboard, glanced their way, and disappeared through a door labeled Pediatrics. Amanda couldn't feel her legs. Mia had been taken the moment they arrived. A team of doctors surrounded her, calling out numbers, moving with urgency but control. Amanda wasn't allowed to follow. She could still see the image of her baby being wheeled away, small, pale, wires already being attached to her arms and chest. A doctor came out 30 minutes later. His face was serious, but not hopeless. He explained what they were seeing. Mia had sepsis, a bacterial infection that had spread into her bloodstream. It was advanced, but not beyond saving. They had caught it in time. Amanda barely heard anything after that. Her body sagged into the chair. Eric reached for her hand. Neither of them cried. Not yet. The shock hadn't worn off enough for tears. The word sepsis echoed in her ears. How had they missed it? They thought it was teething, a mild fever, normal baby stuff. But it had been much worse. The doctor said the infection had likely been building quietly for days. That babies Mia's age sometimes don't show classic symptoms. A slight fever, subtle color changes, fatigue, easy to miss, unless you knew what to look for, or unless something else picked up on it first. Amanda sat up straighter. She asked the doctor if anything else could have caused the early signs to show. The doctor shook his head. It wasn't visible until the fever spiked and the infection moved fast. Amanda stared down at her hands and thought of Buddy. When she mentioned him, how he'd acted, how he'd growled, blocked the crib, refused to leave Mia's side. The doctor raised an eyebrow. He said he'd heard of dogs detecting seizures, even some cancers. But infection? That was rare. The nurse brought them back to the room an hour later. Mia was asleep, hooked to an IV, color slowly returning to her cheeks. Amanda stood over the crib, her eyes burning. She leaned in and whispered, "I'm sorry," again and again. When they got home later that night, Buddy met them at the door. He didn't jump, didn't bark. He just wagged his tail once and sat at Amanda's feet, staring up at her. She dropped to her knees and wrapped her arms around his neck. This time Buddy didn't growl. He just licked her cheek. Mia stayed in the hospital for 4 more days. Each day her skin grew rosier, her cries stronger. Nurses said she was a fighter. Amanda stayed by her side through every hour, watching each tiny improvement like it was a miracle. Eric brought food, fresh clothes, and coffee that never stayed hot long enough to matter. The doctor returned on the 3rd day with a full report. The infection had started small, likely bacterial, but spread fast, aggressively. 1 more hour, he said. That's all it would have taken. 1 more hour and things could have gone very differently. Amanda didn't ask what he meant by differently. She already knew. When Mia came home, the house felt warmer. Buddy waited at the front door, tail swaying slowly. Amanda set the car seat down on the floor and unbuckled Mia, letting her stretch. Buddy didn't move until Amanda nodded. Then he stepped forward and sniffed her gently, head tilted. Mia gurgled softly. He licked her foot. That night, Amanda sat in the nursery, rocking Mia to sleep. Buddy lay at her feet, calm and still. The house was quiet, but her thoughts weren't. She kept thinking about everything they had misread, the warnings, the symptoms, the dog who never gave up, even when they thought he was the problem. Eric came in and sat beside her on the rug. He said one sentence that stuck. We didn't trust him. Amanda didn't argue. She knew he was right. They had ignored him, pushed him away, locked him out, when all along, he was trying to save them from the very thing they couldn't see. Amanda told the story to her parenting group the next week. At first, it sounded like a scary anecdote about a jealous dog. But as she got to the part about the hospital, the barking, the fever, no one moved. One woman cried. Another said she'd given her dog away 2 months after her son was born. Amanda didn't judge her. but she told her to listen better next time. She wrote it all down in a long post one evening while Mia slept and Buddy snored by the window. The post spread fast. People shared stories of pets warning them, protecting children, sensing things no one else did. Some said they didn't believe it, but others said they had lived it too. Amanda didn't need credit. She just needed people to think twice. Because sometimes love doesn't come in gentle nudges. Sometimes it barks and growls and scratches the floor until you finally hear it. Sometimes it wears fur. And sometimes it saves a life before you even know it needs saving.